Good afternoon, everyone. You are very welcome to the Finding Your Still Point with Mindful Self-Care webinar. The panel will be delighted to receive any questions you may have. Please use the Q&A feature located at the bottom of your PC or laptop screen. If you are using an iPad, you will find this feature located at the top of your screen. Without further ado, I will now hand you over to your host, Cliona Kerwin, Health Promotion and Improvement Officer. Thank you.
Hey everybody, I hope everyone's doing really well today. My name is Cliona Kerwin and I'm a Health Promotion and Improvement Officer in Dublin North City, and I'm absolutely delighted to be hosting our next webinar in our series of staff health and wellbeing webinars. Our webinars are run in partnership with Human Resources and everybody here in the Department of Health and Wellbeing in Dublin North City. So I'm delighted to hand you over to my wonderful colleague, Karen, today. Karen is also a Health Promotion Improvement Officer in Dublin North City, but she also has a wealth of experience in helping us all deal with stress. So today's webinar is Karen's going to go through some techniques to help us to reduce our stress. So I'm really looking forward to this talk. But before I hand you over to Karen, there's just two things I want to point out to you. We have a Q&A feature there, so if you have any questions for Karen, pop them in there and we'll try and get those answered at the end of today's webinar. The other thing is also we're on Twitter. Our handle is @HSE DNCC if you'd like to tweet about today's webinar. And our hashtag is #StaffHealthDNCC. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to you, Karen. Thank you.
Thanks a million, Cliona. We're wearing our corporate colours today to see if we're matching. I'd just like to say before we start, welcome everybody, but also just a big thanks to you, Cliona, for all the work that you've been doing with this whole programme. We're halfway through our series of webinars on staff wellbeing, and these topics were topics suggested by staff as part of the staff survey. So we're delighted to be able to bring this to you and always open to hearing other suggestions that you'd like as well. And a big shout out as well to the IMS team that have been helping us the whole way through these webinars, to Helena, to Dana Marie, and to Lauren, who's been looking after them really closely as well and running everything from the Starship Enterprise in the background and making us all look good. So thank you so much to you guys. You're all very welcome. This is called Finding Your Still Point, and it's very much an interactive session. You know, if you're on a Zoom meeting, you can see and you can hear everybody, but when it's a webinar, it's a one-way thing. So I'd like it to be two-way and lots of fun as well. So it's an interactive session. So do put it in the chat, do use the features, do take part in the polls, because it's the best way that we can find out how things are going. Also, it's going to be recorded, so you'll be able to watch it back later if you have to go back to work before 2:30. And just a reminder as well that we're going to send out a survey at the end. And if you'd like to fill that in, you'll be automatically entered into a draw for an all-for-one voucher. So I know everybody loves to win something. So again, my name is I'm going to share my screen now. My background originally, before I started working with the HSE, I did quite a lot of work with healthcare staff around, sorry, my screen isn't moving now, I don't know why. Yeah, around stress management for staff working in healthcare. I did a lot of work around COVID, supporting recovery, and also just teaching techniques and relaxation skills. So the idea behind today is that you come away with something that will really help you towards developing your own self-care planning, but also something practical you can use to help yourself to relax as well. So today's presentation, we'll be doing the relaxation skills, talking about how your body communicates stress and why it's so important to listen to that, and also your mind, how it does it too. And we'll be talking about self-care toolkits and increasingly developing a kind of self-care planning that's responsive and works for you. So when we look at the body, we're looking at the whole self, you know, not just the mind, but also the body. And let's really pay attention to ourselves as we go through this session. So to really set an intention, if you've chosen to be here and you're on the call, I see there's 30 people on the call, and I had a look at the list and I could see such a variety of people in different roles and inside in the HSE and inside in CHO, DNCC. So really to set an intention to participate for yourself as part of today's session. It's helpful to turn off your phone so that you can really focus on yourself, unless you need it for work for a specific reason. And then again, I said, you know, to use the chat functions. You can always watch back if you need to afterwards, if you can't make it. You know, the first part of the day is over, the next part of the day hasn't begun. We're in this nice lunchtime session. So really bring yourself 100% into the webinar for this time. You've given this is an act of self-care for yourselves. So really invest in yourself for this time. So first of all, what I'd like to do is just get a temperature check from you, just about how your own stress level is going today. So on a scale of 1 to 10, if you want to close your eyes, just check in with yourself. How are you doing today? What's your stress level? If 1 is not at all stressed and 10 is really not having a great day, and maybe take a moment to fill out the poll. And I know IMS are going to, Lauren's going to share the poll in the background. So 1, not stressed, and 10 being very stressed. So if you want to take a moment and put that in and let us know how you're doing. And Lauren is going to share that with us, and I'll share the results with you a little bit later on as well. Okay. Okay, so we're kind of half and half. Some people are feeling quite stressed. Some people kind of in the middle ground, it seems to be. Okay, we'll see if we can bring more people down to the bottom of that level. Okay, we're going to start off with a nice breathing exercise that incorporates the body as well. Just allow yourself to kind of, I suppose, take part in this really physically. And in this practice, what we're going to do is we're going to use our fingers at points. And these are points that you'd naturally be rubbing when you feel a pain, or, you know, if you've got a headache, you might rub the sides of your head, or if you're feeling tense, you might rub your shoulders, or maybe your lower back, you know, around the adrenals, adrenaline, stress. So what we're going to do is we're going to be rubbing on areas or holding on areas that tend to unblock pain. So the first point that we're going to press is point 1. So for that, if you just go over to the side where your arm connects the trunk of your body and move your fingers down 3 to 4 inches. And you should find a point that feels very tender and sensitive. And if you feel around with the tips of your fingers, you'll find that point. And what we do for that is we hold for about 1 to 2 minutes. It's lovely to do this with music, something nice and calming and relaxing. But if you hold on, some people will notice that the point feels very tender or sensitive. You might have somebody near you kind of wincing almost with the pain of it. And that point tends to be very sensitive, but will replay a little bit of attention. Once you put your fingers on that, it starts to reduce in intensity. And shake off and then go to the other side. So it's about 3 to 4 inches down from where the arm connects the trunk of the body. And just feel around there again until you feel a point in the body that feels very sensitive. And if you want to use your middle finger for that, so that you can feel that energy draining out of that part of the body. And that's congestion, just a feeling of congestion. So just a moment or 2 more. So the next point then is point 2, and it's over the shoulder. So if you want to bring your hand over your shoulder and feel around, and if you want, you can circle your arm so you find that point. Point 2. So if you want to hook your fingers around in that way, and you can support your elbow with your other arm, and you might find a point again that feels very tense or quite painful, and using the breath, taking a nice deep breath and breathing out. So it's the kind of inside curve of the shoulder blade, just about 1 inch or 2 from the spine. Just breathing out, letting that go. And we're just about 1 or 2 minutes at that point. So we just go to the other side again. So we're looking for the inside curve of the shoulder blade. If you want to rotate your arm until you find a point that you can kind of hook your fingers into, use your hand to support your elbow, and breathing nice and gently for 1 to 2 minutes at each point. focusing on your breathing. This is just a way of incorporating some points in the body that we tend to rub anyway, but doing them in an intentional way, one after the other. So just a moment or two more, and very gently release, shake off. Now the next points, you tend to rub anyway if you feel that your shoulders are painful or you're feeling quite tense. So these are point 3, and they're the trapezius muscles. So those points there where the neck and the shoulders meet together. So you can place one hand there. If you want to go cross body like this, you can, using your hands, or some people like to do it this way. So whichever feels most comfortable for you. And just allowing your fingers to rest at those points. If you want to rub them, you can, but just leaving your fingers there is very helpful. Okay, I'm just going to stop sharing my screen. For some reason, my screen share is not working. So yeah, so Lauren's going to share my screen. Thank you so much, Lauren, for that. So we're at point 3. Now we're going to move up to point 4. So those points there are the band of muscles that run up the back of the neck. And for those, if you place your fingers on either side, 3 fingers on either side, and it's the middle finger that tends to do the work there, point 4. And this area can get really tense, especially if you're getting a headache. So placing our fingers at this point tends to release stress and tension. Breathing nice and deeply. Letting that tension out. You might feel that you want your shoulders to drop. And just letting that go. So we must be coming up to about 1 to 2 minutes there now. And shake off. The next points are those points at the back of the head that you naturally place, the kind of depressions at the base of your skull that you naturally place your fingers into if you were kind of stretching out and leaning back into your hands. So you can either place your fingers here at the top of your neck. I'll just show you exactly where the points are. Those points there. So you can either hold them like that, or you can hold them like this. And just about 1 to 2 minutes. And this can be really painful. This is a very painful area for some people, especially if you are feeling stressed. It tends to accumulate. Taking a nice deep breath and letting the breath carry the pain and the tension out of your body. All that congestion that tends to feel blocked. Just a moment or 2 more, and we'll move on to the next point, point 6. Just going to see how I'm doing for time. So the point 6 are the points at the side of the head. So where the ear meets the side of the head. And again, this is a very common point to rub if you have a headache, but you can just leave your fingers there. And the idea behind this practice is just breathing nice and gently and letting the tension release as you use your fingers all the way up the body at these points that are very commonly rubbed, but doing them in an intentional way. So we're doing it almost like a practice. I've done this with hundreds and hundreds of healthcare workers over the years, and it can be very stilling. So we just take a moment or 2 more. This is great, especially for the busy head that many of us have, either in healthcare front-facing roles or frontline roles, or also people that are working in the background supporting everybody, like our team, where we're moving a lot of information around in our heads during the day, and it's great to get that nice sense of release. So very gently, the last points then at the top of the head, so just the band of points that runs down the top of the head, so you place your fingers there. Right down the very middle of the crown of your head. Taking a nice deep breath. And just a moment or 2 more. And if you want to just do some very gentle circles to finish off, and then just rub down the head, the neck, the shoulders. And just take a moment, close your eyes and take a moment for yourself. And just check in with yourself. How are you feeling after that exercise? We might have the next chart and then the next one after that. Thank you. Yeah. So just checking in with yourself. That's the kind of visual that I sometimes use for this. It's almost like that feeling of tension rising off the body. But if you want to go back one, Lauren, there, sorry, just check in. And if you want to put it in the chat, if you have any thoughts or any how you're feeling, if there's been any change in how you're feeling as a result of doing that, feel free to pop it in the chat. Okay. More grounded. That was lovely. Great. And it's so simple. That released some tension. Great. Lovely. Thanks so much, guys. It's great to get the interactivity. Okay, we'll have the next slide there, Lauren. Thanks very much. The next one after that, yeah. I'm just going to leave that there for a minute, because just leave that hanging there for a minute. That self-care is such a big job. No wonder I put it off for so long. Many of us find it difficult to incline inwards towards ourselves. It's not about getting everything right, but it's about being compassionate to ourselves, just because we're breathing, just because we're there, because we're people, and we're just as deserving as our own compassion and care as other people are. But sometimes it's easier to look after other people. And so that's why we start in the body with just a very gentle exercise. So I want to ask you, and you can move on to the next chart there, Lauren, thank you. How does your body communicate stress to you? Lovely. It's just somebody said there, a headache which was starting to take hold is dissipating. Very common. If you start getting a headache in the middle of your day, kind of halfway through your working day, start at those points at the back. They're very, very good. Are you somebody that holds tension in the side of their head? Are you a tummy clencher? If you get stressed, do you start to clench your stomach? Are you a shoulder holder? Do you hold it all there? I'm getting neck and shoulders coming in on the chat here. Anybody get indigestion when they get stressed? How's your body talking to you? Anybody get lower back pain or headaches? Yeah, shallow breathing, very common, very common, very common in healthcare as well. And or there's that feeling of stress, or breathing up in our chest, when a lot is going, restless. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that restless feeling in the body. Yeah, it's like an adrenaline overload almost. And what we tend to do when that happens, if the headache comes or something comes, we tend to just pop paracetamol, get on with it. We're not accustomed, especially in this side of the world, of looking at our bodies and taking the messages as seriously as they should, especially when we're feeling tension. And it'll never see us around. A shoulder holder, copy of the visual stress points would be nice. Absolutely. I'll send that on too. For that breathing exercise. So let's keep moving on. We can see that the body's working, but what are the emotional signals? And what is it that we are doing, and what is it that we're thinking about when that's happening? So do you want to just move on another slide? Yeah, so these are common. And is there anything that looks like it might be a bit familiar to you? Sleep going. Sometimes for people, that's the first thing that goes, that they start to feel like it's hard to get a good night's sleep, or easy to fall off to sleep, but very difficult to stay asleep. Might wake up 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and that's it then for the night. Or feeling on edge, anxious or confused, difficulty making decisions. That's my one. I find it hard to make decisions if I'm starting to get, things are starting to get on top of me. And it can manifest in things like, not opening emails, or opening an email and maybe not acting on it, kind of not sure. Appetite can grow or diminish, feeling irritable. You go home and your parent and your kids or your husband or your wife can't look at you because you're snapping, or becoming forgetful. Where are my keys? Where's my phone? Where's my child? Losing things very easily, or becoming tearful, getting upset, overly emotional. I mean, we all get tearful at times, but just something that wouldn't normally elicit a response. but it's something that just gets to you more easily. We're more emotionally vulnerable when we're feeling stressed. Or outbursts, not knowing where something comes from. We overreact. Somebody cuts us off in traffic and we overreact, or we're blurbing, we're blurting things out, we're kind of over disclosing, and that can be very common when we're feeling stressed, because we're feeling overly packed in, and it starts to come out. Or we're nice at work and not so much at home. Like was reading about a woman who brought her daughter to work, and the dad asked her in the evening, what did you learn? And she said, well, I learned, ma'ams, I'm not nicer at work. I think a lot of people can relate to that, but we really do want to keep our energy for the people that feed us and help us. And just low energy, we're keeping so much of our energy, and our adrenaline is keeping the show on the road, that we don't have energy for other things. We tend to wear out, the batteries flat. So how can we, if we go on to the next chart there, Lauren, I don't think I'll ever do my own charts anymore. This is great. How can you use this awareness? So if anything was coming up for you as being felt very true, how can you use this awareness now to really start to look at little changes that can happen? That's what we're going to talk about, the little things. It was a great campaign that was run by the HSE, and still is run by the HSE. Where we're not just automatically taking a paracetamol when we get a headache, but we're kind of looking into what are the reasons for that, and staying aware of what it is that we need. Just developing that sense of awareness and inclining in towards ourselves with a sense of curiosity. What is it that you need? Okay, so we move on to the next chart. We're all familiar with this, but self-care can feel very selfish, and there can be plenty of voices in our heads arguing with us, and that comes from beliefs around things like deservability, or sometimes maybe role in the family, or where we grew up in terms of do we practice self-care as well as we should, because we're actually getting messages that are saying that maybe we should be looking after our spouse or our kids first, or putting our family first, or our parents first. And so many people are in the sandwich generation that are working in the HSE, and they're looking after elderly parents and children at the same time, and can feel very stretched. So where is there time for you in all of that? And sometimes, even the pet gets looked after before somebody else. And so things like I need to put others first might be a belief. And these beliefs might not be very obvious, but they're working away in the background, feeling I don't deserve this, or asking, do I deserve this time? Or I don't have time. That's the great one. I don't have time. Or other people's needs are more important than mine. I'm being too good to myself. I'll do it when I get time. Or I can't say no to him or her. And that has all to do with their personal boundaries. So, these are interesting things to think about. Who are we putting before ourselves? And if we want to be well in the long term, and really get out of life what we need to, and to be well. I mean, work and looking after others is one thing, but we need to be well ourselves. So let's move on to the next slide. Because this is kind of the type of things that we need to think about in terms of self-care. And this is not necessarily a prescriptive list, but certainly a list of things that are helpful when we are, getting time in these different areas. But the idea is not to launch into it all at once, but rather to think about it in terms of ongoing planning, and if possible, supported ongoing planning. And I'll tell you about something that we're doing as part of staff health and wellbeing we're developing at the moment. And if you're interested in joining in and certainly selling it to the people in your workplace, we'd be delighted if you would. So things like eating well, so important, to be well, to fuel our bodies right, and to be active. We'll talk about those in a few more minutes. Self-kindness, self-compassion, we'll cover that as well. And asking others for help, reaching out. We're normally so good to help others, but asking for help can be a hard thing to do. Connecting with others, so important. I heard a fantastic quote on Monday as part of World Mental Health Day. Resilience doesn't only live in us, but also between us. So it's about the resilience that we have because of our relationships with other people. Our interest and hobbies are also part of the ways that we can express self-care. Allocating time for relaxation, or time in nature. It's, you know, it's such a beautiful time of the year at the moment, just to walk around any kind of wooded area and noticing the colors, and just the light this time of year, especially in Ireland, is so beautiful. And gratitude has been proven time and time again to have a very protective factor and very protective function. When we realize what we have, we're not looking for as much at what we don't have, and we're able to enjoy and savor what we have, and having downtime scheduled as well. And of course, a very helpful thing is to you know, look at our sleep patterns, leaving the phone outside the bedroom, etc., and minding our sleep hygiene. Okay, I was trying to do that myself. Move the slide forward. I forgot. Thanks, Lauren. Okay. So the Little Things, a beautiful campaign that's been run by the HSE, and it's built as well on the 5 ways to well-being. And these things that are so important to us, I'm going to ask to move the slide forward in a second, but the first one is keeping active. You see this one, keeping active. So 30 minutes a day for adults, 60 minutes a day. There's a fantastic quote from Robert Butler, who was a gerontologist and a psychiatrist, I think, as well, for older age. And he talked about if exercise could be packaged in a pill, it would be the single most widely prescribed and beneficial medicine in the nation, because it has just such marvelous qualities for rejuvenating our health. So being active, and the recommendation is 30 minutes a day for adults, 60 minutes a day for kids. Getting that walk in, it doesn't necessarily mean that going to the gym or doing a specific exercise, but just being physically active in the house, just not being sedentary. Talking about our problems and letting ourselves just sit down and discuss how we're feeling with other people, sharing what we're going through with a trusted person. It may not be possible to solve it at the time, but just lightening the load, sitting down and saying, you know, I'm not doing too good, or I need help with this. And we're hopefully getting better at doing that, because we know after the experience of the pandemic that we do need each other so well. That you know, those golden numbers of 7 to 8 hours sleep as often as you can. It may not be possible every night, but to try and catch up when you can, to use a bedtime exercise routine, and you know, exercising and getting yourself ready. Thanks. Somebody has to leave, so thanks very much. You will get the recording. So you know, it has a positive impact on us, and there's so many things, especially with social media and phones and work and all these things, that are impinging. So it's about being very boundaried and protected about this time that we need to get a good night's sleep. So we'll go on to the next one, Lauren, the next chart or two. Yeah. So doing things with others, being part of a group, an activity that you enjoy. You know, it is a lovely time to get out, especially this time of year, to get out and join something or be part of something. I know I recently, as part of my own self-care planning, did start to go back to an art class, and it's just made such a difference to my week, just to know that that time is there. Sorry, my cooker's going off. Only on television, folks. So the guys in IMS will edit that out, of course. That never happened. So yeah, taking part in a group activity, something that enriches your life, because there is the work, there is the home, but there's the part of the things that define us and who we are as individuals, the things that make us who we are. And giving time to do that with other people can be such an enriching opportunity, weekly potentially, to do it as well, and so restorative. Eating healthily as well, a balanced, nutritious diet to help us physically, but also our mental health as well. And there's so many resources that we have, and I'm going to put them onto the chat at the end as well, that you can use. Okay, we'll move on to the next slide. Yeah, so just around eating healthily, they might be small changes. They don't have to be huge dietary changes, but things like just having maybe a little bit less coffee, lower sugar, of course. Maybe just bringing an extra piece of fruit in. If I have an apple sitting in front of me, I find it hard to eat, but if I chop it up, or if it's cut up, much easier. So finding those ways of getting that extra piece of fruit in during the day, having your glass of water, making small changes that are easy to stick to, and you know, using more fruit and veg in our cooking. And there's a lovely link for Safe Food, where they have a huge huge recipe book with it's all online, and if you click on the links, it brings you to a really well put together recipe for foods that's very nutritionally balanced and will appeal to the family and everybody. So there's fabulous recipes in that, and they are nutritionally very balanced. So we go to the next slide. You know, staying in touch with others. I was just talking about the benefit of doing things in groups. But remembering, you know, that resiliency piece, that we are stronger together, just like the new mental health plan. We're stronger together. So the more that we can reach out, find those ways to link in with other people, to volunteer, to do something, to catch up with friends, you know, maybe that's something that you want to do, because when we're very busy, just going through our normal daily lives, it can be difficult to meet up with friends. We find that we're doing it at Christmas or at those times that we meet naturally in an annual way. But catching up with people, getting in touch, writing a list of people and just ticking them off and getting in touch with them can be really positive for mental health. And then drinking less alcohol. I have a little demonstration here. I was telling the girls beforehand. So there's our wine glass. So this is that's your kind of typical glass of wine that you get in a restaurant. That might be closer to a size that you'd have at home. This is a wine glass from everyone's friendly, large Swedish international company that will remain nameless. But if we pour that in to a measuring glass, that is, the measuring glass there is 1.8 units of alcohol, and 11 units of alcohol is the recommended per week for women and 17 for men. So for this, pour it back in, it's a little bit under half a pint. So you saw how much was in that glass. It was kind of the type of glass that you'd give to a visitor. You mightn't fill it all up that way. It was like half a glass of wine in a fairly large, because the glasses of wine these days are large, it's half a pint. So it's amazing when you work that out. So if it's 1.8, more than 1.8 units of alcohol, standard drinks, then it's just 6 of those glasses a week would bring somebody over the limit. So that's the recommended, the HSE recommended level of alcohol intake, unit intakes for an adult. So it's very easy to drink, you know, over a few days, or, you know, for people, if they have a bottle of wine in the house, to maybe finish it off or be self-medicating. Yeah, you can go to the next slide. Yeah, thank you. And it's something that can creep up, especially if people are having a glass of wine, maybe getting off to sleep at night or relaxing, and that can cause problems too. So healthy phone use. The phones are absolutely everywhere these days, and just remembering to take breaks from the phone. There's a lot of research been done on how important it is to take breaks from the phone, to charge it outside of the bedroom, not to use it in bed, and to limit social media connectivity, you know, to remember that there's a lot happening in reality, and we know we have to protect our young people from too much social media use, especially harmful material online. But also, if we are using our phone, we'll say in the evenings or going off to sleep, to use online content that can be very restful or relaxful, something like the Calm app or the Breathe app, or there's a lovely app that was created by a Beaumont Hospital. So just to be aware again of our phone use. So we go to the next slide there. We talked a little bit just about inclining towards the self. And please do let me know, put it into the chat if this is something, just put self-compassion or SC into the chat, just to give me a temperature read of how many people would like to look into this a little bit more as part of staff health and well-being. So self-compassion is a practice, and it can be developed over time, and it's associated with positive mental health. So very much a kind of a way of developing a sense of kindness to the selves and going easier on ourselves. And what's been found out by research is self-compassion is very highly correlated, not only with positive mental health, but also kindness to others. So that's a real endorsement for this approach for the healthcare industries. So Christian Neff is a key person working in this area, and she said she found in her research that the biggest reason that people aren't more self-compassionate is we're afraid we'll become self-indulgent. And that self-criticism actually keeps us in line. So it's like that stiff upper lip, keep calm and carry on, whereas actually inclining towards the self with a sense of curiosity and finding out what's going on for ourselves can actually be far more self-kind and beneficial. And many people in our culture have gotten it wrong because we're kind of nearly taught that we're supposed to be harder on ourselves. So you see picture 1, 2, and 3. Picture 1, there's 3 elements of self-compassion. This chap is demonstrating kind of mindfulness or awareness. He's thinking. He's in the middle of a situation. He's thinking, okay, what is going on for me? If it's a moment of suffering, this is a moment of suffering, and actually realizing it. The second part is common humanity, realizing that no matter what went on for you, no matter what went wrong or what you did, you're just one of all of humanity, and everybody makes mistakes. And knowing that helps us to feel less isolated, because sometimes when we criticize ourselves, we become more isolated. And then the last part is demonstrating to give ourselves kindness and care and compassion, to like sometimes to actually, you know, give ourselves a rub, give ourselves a pat on the back, you know, wherever, a pat on the back, wherever it is that you can nurture yourself. It might be eating something nice and healthy, might be just spending some time for yourself. So self-compassion is a beautiful practice, and I know that I've personally benefited a lot from the teachings of self-compassion. Okay, we'll move on to the next slide. So we're going to do a little bit of heart-focused breathing. This is a lovely technique for just allowing ourselves to relax. It's using, again, a part of the body. If you want, what I like to do is I like to hold my hand here and almost like leave a space just outside the kind of front part of the chest. So almost like you could feel like you can breathe in and out. So I'll talk you through this. If you want to close your eyes and just relax into your breath for a few minutes, just breathing normally. And maybe when you have a moment or two now, in a moment, just to reduce your breathing maybe a little bit, to slow down. And as you do so, just become aware of just a sensation in your heart area, in the center of your chest. And if you can, in your mind's eye, if you can imagine that you can feel your breath as if you were breathing in and out of your heart area. So as you breathe in and as you breathe out, just imagining that feeling of breath is coming in and out of the heart area. And by breathing in this way, it can change the beat to beat ratio and help create a state of coherence. And that's all there is to it. It's extremely simple. Just allowing the breath in and out of the heart area. Locating your breath at the area of the heart. So we'll just take a moment or two more. And just check in with yourself, how you're feeling right now. No need to rush back, we've plenty of time. And just note in your body how you're feeling right now. Okay, we'll take the next slide. If you want to put in the chat, we'll just take a minute. Slow down. Lovely. Very simple. Heart-focused breathing. Calmer. Lovely. Calmer and slow down. Okay, we'll move on to the next slide. Thanks very much, Lauren. So when we talk about self-care, it can happen naturally, but also sometimes it's worth putting some time aside. So Sunday mornings are a lovely time to do some self-care planning. And if you were to get a notebook or something that you can write into, it doesn't have to be as big as that, but something that you can write into and make some plans. And then you can set a reminder in your phone to do that, just to remind you to do some weekly self-care planning. And take that time as well to connect in with maybe a friend, to organize to meet them for a walk or a coffee or a drink or something, or make an appointment to go to acupuncture or yoga or whoever, or massage, or your partner or a friend to help you out so that you can be relieved of any responsibilities for a period of time during the week, so that you can do something for ourselves. Life gets in the way, and we do training in well-being and self-care. And after a full day's training, with the best will in the world, we leave with great intentions, but life gets in the way. And to counter this very natural tendency we have to kind of start with great intentions and then maybe go down, we started in our office to do self-care planning on it with peers. And it's gone very well, and it's allowed us so that we, take 10 minutes during some time with each other during the week, and we work off a plan, so that we're not allowing these plans that we have for ourselves, that we started because we know we need them, those things that we know will protect us, that we know will restore us. But then you get into your busy week and you forget those things. That doesn't happen as often. Sure, you'll have weeks that you're not able to report that you did anything, but then there's other weeks you'll come back and say, I made that phone call and I did go to an appointment and it was great. And so what it is about is kind of zeroing in on what you need, and then making a note of it, and then working off maybe a list and breaking it into very small things, so nobody has to feel overwhelmed with a big list of self-care things that if you start too much, it's about the little things, as we say, the little things. So if you want to go on to the next slide. So we have some resources, and I know that Lauren is going to put those in, and there's another slide coming up after that with more resources, and Lauren is going to put them in to the chat function so that you can see resources that you can access as part of what we're doing. I'd also like to say as well, the slide that we had earlier, we had the list of self-care plans, self-care items to use. Sorry, I'll bring it up here again. Things that we could do. I'm not going to ask you, Lauren, to go back to them, but that slide. So that it had things like eating well, being active, self-compassion, connecting with others, interests and hobbies. That can become a list that we can work off, or that you can work off. So you think, okay, I'm going to work on maybe 2-3 of those areas over the next month or two, and see what kind of inroads, and break that into weekly manageable bits and discuss them with others at work. If that's something that you might be interested in, would you put it in the chat, or would you email us? If you wouldn't mind emailing us, and I'll give you our email address, which is hwb.dncc. It's going to be on the end of our, yeah, that's it, lovely, that list. The email address is going to be at the end of this talk as well. And if you email us and let us know if you'd like to be part of that, or to set up self-care planning, because somebody did put a question in about finding your still point for her team. And that could be something that's done on a regular basis. But equally, if everybody's looking after themselves, and if everybody's contributing to their own well-being, and doing it even in a team way, so they can talk about it and maybe match up with one buddy, and that buddy can move around, and you can be with different people after a month or two. But what it means is that you're working down through that list of self-care, and it doesn't fall off your list of priorities. And we might be doing it where we can match people up from different work sites as well, if people don't want to work on the site that they're in at the time. But if that's something that's of interest, do send us an email, because we will be actualizing that. We're in the middle of where we're just about to do a project charter on it and rolling that out, hopefully in 2023. and maybe a little bit earlier if we can. So I'd like to bring you on to one or two things that are coming up. And these are fantastic. We'll just go the next slide after that then. Yeah, so the EAP, Ray Maloney is the head of the EAP service, and we've asked Ray to do a talk with us, and he's coming in next Thursday, the 20th, and he'll be answering questions live like I will do. And he is, he's the head of service. He's also a psychotherapist, and I've been speaking to him about it, and he's going to go and lift up the bonnet. So we've put questions to, and we have questions ready for Ray, where he's going to talk about what people are coming in with, what's happening for people right now, what happens when you contact the EAP service. I would request that anybody on the call talks to their managers. Everybody should come on to this talk, the EAP talk. If you have your own private phone, you might be able to use the QR code to link onto it, but the girls will put the list of registrations as well. Sorry, just getting a call here. A list of registrations for all of the talks. And I would highly recommend that. He's going to talk as well about the critical incident stress management and what their EAP team do when they go into somewhere where there has been a critical incident and how they manage it. It's a really, really interesting talk. It might be not something that you've thought about, but I would highly recommend this, and it's highly recommendable for managers because he said a lot of managers aren't recommending for their staff to find out about the program, and a lot of it is self-referral from staff themselves. Okay, we go on to the next slide. Derek Pepper, he's a team leader with Shine, which is an organization that supports people affected by mental illness. You know, all of us have had our challenges during COVID, and, you know, to greater or lesser extents, people have been deeply affected by what's gone on, but also, regardless of anything that we went through in the recent past, it's very normal for us to experience mental health challenges. And Derek is really going to talk about what it's like from the point of view of staff members to be supporting maybe family or friends or colleagues who are dealing with mental health challenges. But also, it's very Irish as well. We talked about the fact that people can, there's still a lot of shame associated, there's still a lot of stigma associated with, and how do we break that down, and how people, especially if those of us who work in the health services, that can be difficult to consider when we have maybe a family member who's struggling with mental illness, and there can be a lot of shame around that still. And so Derek is going to talk to us about how to stay well ourselves, how to look after ourselves, but also how to cope and manage when maybe somebody close to us, family members, relatives, have something that they're dealing with from a mental health point of view. And as he said himself, it's often the person who's getting the treatment that's doing fine. It's the family that are having trouble dealing with the journey. Okay, so we'll move on to the next slide, and I think we're nearly done. Oh yeah, just to fill out there's not that many people on the call. You've got a really good chance of winning a One for All voucher, so please fill in and do let us know, especially what you're interested in us doing as part of staff health and wellbeing. Okay, the next slide then I think is our final slide, and yeah, so our health and wellbeing is hwb.dncc@hse.ie, and the reason really that we wanted to have such an interactive session was because we want everyone who's on the call to kind of get the message and send it out that we want to know what it is that you want to do. We have lots of ideas. We're in planning for 2023. We did some great stuff. Even before I joined, there was some fantastic projects that were done, and we just want everybody to get a chance to take part in those, but also learn what it is that you feel helps you, because self-care has changed an awful lot since, I mean, I've been doing this work for 10 years, and in the last 3 years, we've seen 2.5 years, we've seen a dramatic change in what self-care means for people, and what mental health means for people, and what resilience means for people. And so the feedback form will come out. The feedback form will come out for anybody. Somebody just asked, where do I find the feedback form? The feedback form will be sent to everybody that registered for the training. So thanks for the question. So yeah, I can't believe it. We just did great on time. We've got another 10 minutes and that's just our last slide, because I love this website. Safe food, 101 square meals. You just click in up here, then you click in and you get we see you click into chicken, you click in down here, and then it brings you to the recipe, and they're all balanced and they're all nutritionally, and they're fantastic recipes. And I've put that into the yeah, brilliant. IMS. Thanks, Lauren. She's just put that in. That is such a great website. If you did nothing else from this, if you just managed your healthy eating for the next 3 months, it'll be the making of you. So maybe we can stop the screen, the sharing. And just if anybody has any questions, I know that I see lots of stuff in the chat there. Lovely. I'd be happy to engage my team here in actively pursuing self-care. Brilliant. Lovely. And I see all the that's fantastic. Yeah, so we really want to get as many people as possible involved in, you know, promoting self-care as something that happens at work as well, because we spend so much time at work, we spend so much time with your colleagues, and it's actually a really lovely relationship building exercise and team building exercise with people that that you work with.
Karen, that's absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much for that presentation.
By the way, blackcurrant.
We hope that's blackcurrant. So guys, just your opportunity to ask any questions. You have the Q&A feature there. If you want to pop in questions, I'll try and get through as many as we can. Karen, just before your talk, we got a question in about somebody that's working in a busy CAMS team, and she's just looking for advice on how this team could create their own still point. Would you have any advice for this person?
Yeah, that's a lovely question. Thanks for sending it in. So I think it's really talking to the team about what they'd like to do. You know, people have their own self-care activities or practices that they do that they enjoy doing, and they might be able to share a resource or something that they're using. We would have it's closed at the moment, it's just closed for 2022, but we'll be opening up the funding for staff health and well-being funding, so for initiatives, for your own local initiative. So certainly if you want to send me an email, I'll send you details of how to apply for that. I can't recommend highly enough the idea of just getting together once a week and sitting down and working through, just each person taking one thing to work on. It might be something very small. It might be making a phone call. It might be going out for an extra walk every couple of days, or it might be eating a little bit more healthy. But once we're starting to make inroads on that self-care, it creates, it's kind of like it creates an engine. It like lights the burner in an engine and can just really rejuvenate people. In terms of finding a still point, I would, you know, things like mindfulness, where you really get to slow everything down, to focus on the breath. So it might be something that we can suggest to you online. Again, I can do a little bit of research for you. I'd be very happy to come out and do something as well with the team, and really just to share the opportunity to do a little bit of, you know, body wellness exercises and to learn how to switch off. And I think once everybody is minding themselves, it's amazing. It has dramatic effect on the whole team when they're really minding themselves in ways that matter, because the work that CAMS do is just so incredibly important for our young people and children and adolescents. And so to keep everybody in CAMS well is something very important.
I agree, and have someone who's worked in CAMS can fully appreciate that question. So thank you for that. Just another kind of like just an example really of our staff health and wellbeing is coming through in the Q&A there. Just somebody who's saying they have a lovely garden in their primary care centre that they got from the funding that we provide. Remembering, if you want to apply for funding, it's from January to September of every year, and you get your funding application in by the 21st of each month. And this person just says that it really boosted their mental health, being able to get outside at lunch over summer. So that's just really lovely, and a really lovely example of maybe what people can do. That's absolutely amazing. So Karen, I think my leave it there because I'm conscious of time. So Karen, I'd just like to thank you again. You've given us great tips and techniques that we can use going forward. So before everybody kind of heads off back to our hopefully less stressful jobs, I'd just like to remind you of our next talk. It's the only one that Karen didn't mention there, and that's on Tuesday, the 18th of October. And that's Martin Ryan is coming in from the Irish Heart Foundation, and he's going to be talking about how to keep your heart healthy. So if you'd like to register for this talk, just scan the QR code. You can see the QR code there, so that if you want to register for it, just scan that QR code. The girls are also going to put in the chat function now, excuse me, links to all the talks that Karen spoke about, the remaining talks for our webinars. And I'd just like to give you another little reminder. Remember, you could be in with a chance to win a one for all voucher. Just complete the survey that will be sent to you after today's webinar. So I think that's everything for today. You'll be hearing from me and Karen again next week and the week after with the remaining webinars that we have planned for you. So I hope you have a really good day, and thank you very much.